Okay, there is a very good chance, especially because of going off of how things have been progressing for you. This will be the final legato thing we do for eighth notes. So next week we're going to start working with 16th notes. Chords will be first, just like we did with the eighth notes. And yeah, so making excellent progress. So one more weird thing here. Each bar is different, just like last week, but even less downbeats being played on. So we need to count the rhythm first just to get used to it. Always a good idea. In fact, let's start with that. So here is the count. So 1 and 4. 1, 2 and 2. 3 and 3, 4 and done. So yeah, lots of ands. Here we go. 1, 2. Oh, another thing you can do to help with this, again, is, I think I've talked about it before. If not, shame on me. But like, just get used to what the notes are as well, so you feel comfortable with the count, and then also get comfortable with the notes. So always a good idea with stuff like this. You got a complicated rhythm with lots of different notes. Get comfortable with the rhythm by itself. Get comfortable with the notes by itself, and then stick them together. All right, here we go. 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 4. 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 120. 1, 2, 3, 4. 180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Question something there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's go to 200 for the repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Damn it, I did not go into that repeat well. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 2. So we'll go back to how we were doing the sweep picking before. Whoops, I forgot the chord name. This is a B diminished. So just like the other two, this is based off of that 3-string shape you learned. We're just extending it down those two notes there. So here we go. 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. 120. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. $240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the next scale thing, and you can use this in your improv practice as well. Ascending one string at a time. And we will talk more about the improv stuff here in just a moment. But let's get into the chord theory. So now that you've had two different things to practice, it's time for you to figure out where you're going to go. Actually, I'll finish updating this in a second. I'm actually surprised I don't have this completely filled in. I thought it was already good to go. So this is what you're going to do here is a 6-4-1-5 progression. And just like the stuff that you played or practiced, you had 3 keys and the different variations. So we're going to do that here as well. So you got your key of C. You know it's the key of C because you have no sharps and no flats over here. But here we do have a sharp, so that tells us we're in the key of G. And then we have 1 flat, so that tells us we are in the key of F. So start here on the low E string and then figure out how you can go from chord 6 to chord 4 to chord 1 to chord 5 back to chord 6 using a pattern that can be done with all 3 keys. So basically, if you go down 3 frets in one key, all 3 keys, you have to go down 3 frets. If you go up a string, stay on the same frets, well, all 3 keys, you have to be able to do that. Or if you go down a string and over 2 frets, all 3 keys, you got to do the same thing. So everything's moving the exact same pattern. And then, I can just keep updating this thing now. Then you have it again. So this one, let's have you start on the A string and then come up with another variation of the same chord progression. So once again, all the different patterns must fit for all 3 keys. So however you make the pattern work here, it's got to work here and here. Now, what if the pattern you come up with here does not work in this key? Well, then go backwards. Figure out how it can work in this key and then put it in over here. So you might get something that feels pretty good in one key, like the way the pattern moves, how you go from one chord to the next, but it doesn't work in the other keys. Then you got to find something else. So this is really about helping you see patterns more efficiently. And this way, when you're writing stuff or learning material, you can recognize the patterns a lot faster. And you're like, oh yeah, it's this chord to this chord to that chord, it's this progression here and whatnot. So it just makes it a lot easier when it comes to understanding music. So there's so many ways to do the same kind of chord progression. So even if you come up with something that feels good and sounds right in one key, I mean, that's totally fine too. Like, there's so many ways to do it when it comes to, like, if you're just putting something together on your own. But because we are going with a specific goal here, I want you to have something that applies to all 3 keys. So the same pattern for all 3. And then we got one more variation to do. Let's have you start the last one on the D string. So, first 3, you're going to start on the low E, meaning the first chord starts on the low E, so the root note. That doesn't mean all the chords have to be on the E string. You can go up to the A string, you can go up to the D string, that's fine. But they all start on the low E string for the first variation. So when that natural symbol comes in, that means we're back to the key of C. Start those on the A string, And again, just the first chord that needs to begin on the A string. The next one could be on the E string, or the A, or the D string. And then the last variation, you're going to start on the D string. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Whenever you got this stuff filled in, you don't have to wait until next week to send it over. What some people like to do is fill in the first variation for all 3 keys, and then send that over to make sure it's being done correctly. So you can do that too, or just do the whole thing and then send it over. Either way works for me. Okay, so weren't really enjoying the using those patterns there. So I think you said, yeah, patterns felt fine, but just weren't really enjoying using that thing. So one thing you could do with that is, like what I like to do with it, is kind of use it for easy shred purposes. Because like the patterns are kind of easy for me to see, so as you get going faster, you can start doing things like that. Of course, you can also start doing finger tapping stuff with it too, like combine both of those patterns. Yeah, so just kind of finding little patterns like that you can play quickly. Maybe do little things like that, just quick hammer-ons and pull-offs. Or so, another thing I like, something to focus on this week then. So now that you have successfully gone up each 2 strings at a time, focus on 2 strings for this week. So this way you can get used to going between scale shapes even more. I mean, because it's really just like, using those scale shapes, learning them is just a way to help visualize the fretboard. And just when you start connecting them left to right, that can give you a lot more options and more freedom. So try that this week. Focus on the 2 strings at a time. And as far as last week's idea, if you want to try messing with that a little bit more, see if you can come up with a pattern or do something that feels easy for your fingers to play quickly. So this way you can kind of move it around. Because like something I like to do is just kind of go up and down. So yeah, it's just like up, down, and back up. So like just going up with all those notes, and then right away start coming back down, continue going down, then right back up. And like little variations on that. So for me, it works pretty well. So maybe that's something you can mess with. And, we got tons of stuff that we'll continue to work on. And we, getting the fingers faster and all kinds of variations and things. So anyway, 2 strings at a time. Make that a focus. Now as far as what 2 strings at a time, vary it. So maybe start with the bottom 2 strings. And you don't have to start open. You can start anywhere. And maybe start with an A note. How about that? Let's make that a rule too this week. Start with an A note. kind of see where it takes you. That's feeling pretty good. Go up to the next set of strings. Whenever you feel ready, go to the next two. Remember, start on an A note though. And yeah, just keep changing the set of strings you're working on. Just whenever you feel comfortable. No rush on it. If you need to just stay on the same two strings for an entire session, that's okay. Maybe pick the two strings you feel the most comfortable with to start. This way it's easier to get into it. And then, the next set of strings, pick the next ones that feel okay, but maybe a little bit questionable in terms of how comfortable you feel with it. So this way you're able to focus more on how the notes sound against the backing track versus trying to improve the scale memorization. And I think I mentioned, with the single string stuff, you can use that in your improv practice as well. So it kind of ties in with the two string thing, I think, because they're just so similar. Eventually I'll have you start just focusing on one string at a time. This week let's just focus on the two strings at a time. And if you ever really just want to branch out and just kind of do your own thing, do that too. But make at least 50% of the time focus on just two strings at a time. Okay, I think that covers it. Any questions, let me know. I will see you again in your new videos.